It is 5:30. I'm going to call the Municipal Building Commission meeting to order for March 6th, 2024. For the record, we have Terry DeSisto, Ed Stanton, Jackie Romanicki, Jerry Freecott, Jay Allard, Andrew Acosta, Peter Gagne, and myself. That constitutes a quorum. So, we do not have minutes to approve. So we can go right into the various project reports. And because Courtney Allen is here, we're going to take her first. So please come forward and talk to us about water and PFAS and all sorts of other things.
Hi, good evening. I have a few updates to talk about. I'll start with Wading River temporary PFAS. The temporary PFAS treatment facility was expected to be online this summer. Our earliest date that we had thought it would be was July. Now we're looking at potentially very late summer to later. The reason for this is we're running into the same issue with VFD lead times that we did with the Pawtucket project. Tater and Howard is working with BizCo, who is the contractor on that project, to look for alternate VFDs, just like we did with Pawtucket. I was in contact with Tater and Howard as early as this afternoon, and we have no update for the VFDs.
So will there be a change order with a substitution, or is that what we're looking at?
It could potentially be a credit change order to us, and a little bit of extension on the time for the contractor. Still waiting, depending on the lead time. Again, they're looking at delivery in October to November, potentially later on the VFD that was spec'd. If we can get something closer to late summer, it'll line up with the final construction of the rest of the project.
That's a long.
But it's likely, if they find an alternative, that it will be a less costly VFD and a credit to the city.
And quicker.
And quicker. Fingers crossed.
Anything else happening with that project?
That one, BizCo is going to be on site this month. They'll be starting site work and foundation work and some of the yard piping, tree clearing, and that sort of thing. So if you are up in the area of the plant, you will actually see things starting to move up there.
Is the bridge near it?
The bridge is right next door. Our water main goes right over it. So it's kind of a little bit of detour to get over there right now. It's not something you could just drive by without pulling, the 7-point turn next to the construction zone for the bridge. But we're working around it.
So we got a summary of work document from you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it lays things out by month.
Yep.
With a completion not till January.
And that's what we're looking at with the VFD. Again, that can get pushed up to like later summer, probably September by later summer, with an alternative VFD.
Is there a dependent work? In other words, that there's certain work that can't occur until after the VFDs are in, or can they be ready to go and just plop them in place when they get here?
It can be ready to go with basically some light electrical work to hook it up.
Yep.
Unfortunately, with the setup and the design of the facility, we can't run without it. It's going to pace the water and the pumping basically through the PFAS filters.
But my point is that you can do the entire rest of the project and then plug these.
Then,
things.
yeah, the VFD isn't holding up anything else. It may be one of those projects where everything's done and we sit there and wait if we can't get anything earlier, but it's not holding up anything else.
Is it one VFD or multiple? And
Oh, it would be two.
two?
Mm-hmm.
Are they the same?
Same VFD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just quantity of two? And what's
Yep.
the value on
The-
the one that's spec'd versus if there is an alternative?
That I can check on. I don't have an exact number on that.
But it's called out, it's separate, it's not lumped into.
Can we borrow the ones from the Attleboro Pawtucket Interconnect?
I wouldn't, and I would get onto why a little bit later.
Excuse me?
I said I wouldn't borrow those, and I'll get onto why a little bit later. That project is much better news than this one right now. But yeah, I mean, I can certainly check on the spec versus the alternatives they're looking at.
I think, Andrew, you're asking basically if is it booked as a separate item on the schedule of values?
Correct.
Yeah. So we'll just take a
And
look at
potentially.
that. Yeah, we'll take a look at the schedule of values.
Like, will there be, if there is a credit, is it gonna be very apparent that we have apples and apples to compare to the original value?
And there should be, because the contractor, at least, even if it's not separated out right now, the contractor will have a price on the proposed.
So one of the questions I would have is just, and we've talked about this a little bit, but so the engineer would have spec'd a specific VFD for a reason. I believe their expectation is similar performance on the VFD, even though there might be a a lower price. But can you just talk about, have they addressed any of that to you further?
They haven't yet. A lot of the time when you're running into VFDs, there's certain brands that are spec'd. You'll see like Eaton or Square D, and it might just be a different brand. And this came up when we were working with Pawtucket, and it's like the difference between, getting a Lexus or a Toyota. They tend to do similar things, similar warranties.
Right, but one costs a lot more than the other.
Right. Yep,
And one lasts a lot longer than the other.
potentially not. I mean, we've run into
My
this.
car, 2007,
Yeah.
Oh, Lexus or Toyota?
it's a Lexus.
So I think some of the information that the commission should probably be receiving is any changes in warranties, any, basically if they foresee any performance differences.
Yeah, we'd also, we should pay attention to life cycle costs and how long these things are likely to last. I mean, if the warranty is different, is that because they
It's a
expect it to
lesser
break
product,
sooner?
right.
So the one that was spec'd out, was there an equivalent that could have been selected by the contractor, or was it one specific?
There's always an equivalent.
There's an equivalent, so
But
So there is something
there's
out there.
design around a particular one, and then they say or equal, right?
right, and sometimes there is no equal in the real world, and then the contractor would go back and say, well, this is the only one. So now, if there's only one, then there isn't an equal, and we need to know why it's not equal.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, are
Okay.
you getting a lesser spec?
Right. We're not getting a greater one for a lesser value.
Okay. Is that all on the temporary defense?
For the temporary, that is it.
What about the permanent?
The permanent, I have better news on the permanent. Design's ongoing. We're expecting 30% design and a revised cost estimate sometime in March. Excuse me. There was a schedule submitted by Tater and Howard, but the major items that we're going to see in the next few months is a lot of permitting, mass historical, just to check that it's not a historical site, which it shouldn't be. We're also working on a borrowing authorization with the financial team. And again, this is an SRF project, and the loan authorization through council would basically approve us to borrow the money through SRF. We met with Tater and Howard, the financial team, and Mass DEP in February to discuss the SRF funding, and I actually have better news there.
This one where we were in the top 5?
It is. And the intended use plan list had us listed as a $15 million, basically a $15 million project, $15 million funding. DEP cleared up with us within the last couple weeks that is $15 million per year through SRF. Current estimate for the project is roughly $35 million, so it would be per year until the project was done.
15s and then a 5?
Right now, 2 15s and a 5 is what's expected. We'll have better numbers in March. I'd mentioned before the PFAS-related borrowing is eligible for 0% interest. DEP has told us, we were under the assumption only the PFAS-related, construction-related funding was eligible for SRF. Again, it ends up being the whole project.
So that includes design and OPM?
It will design, we have funding on design, but any of the engineering specific to the construction phase can be funded through SRF. We did ask the question because, again, it's not just PFAS issues up there. We're also having issues with THMs and with manganese. So there are treatment trains for the THM precursor removal.
Remind us what a
And
THM is?
Oh, sorry. A THM is a trihalomethane. It's a byproduct of chlorinating generally surface water, and the chlorine actually reacting with organics that are in the water. So what we have, and I'll get back to how Wading River works now when it's operational. Basically, it's a couple slow sand filters out there with some groundwater influence, but basically we filter the surface water through play sand in a nutshell, and chemical addition, and out the door goes. So it's not much for treatment, which is the reason for the THM and the manganese issues. What is being proposed, again, like I talked last month, is, excuse me, MIX resin treatment and a green sand filtration treatment. One for the THMs, the other for the manganese.
And are those eligible for the funding?
Potentially, yes. And that was the question we asked DEP. If we were just removing PFAS at the plant, we would have to remove all of these other contaminants first anyway. And the reason why is basically the PFAS filters would get bound with all of these other items that we're removing anyway. The best way a PFAS filter will work is if the water it's pristine when it gets to those filters, with the exception of the PFAS, which nothing else removes. So the question asked to DEP is, since we need to do that, it's treating other things, but since we're doing this as well to protect the PFAS filtration part of the treatment train, may that be eligible under the 0% interest as well? And the answer was potentially most of it. If I'm missing anything, Mason, let me know. So anything not eligible for the 0% and not eligible for under the PFAS reg would be at regular SRF rate. And I believe the current rate is 2% or thereabouts, which is much lower than the city is able to borrow privately. There is also estimated forgiveness on part of this loan. And for Attleboro, it's a level 2 community and it's based on income and demographic. Right now, the estimate on forgiveness is 13.2%. So if the whole project is eligible, that actually comes out to over $4.5 million. So it's sounding a lot better than it
Get us
did
closer
when
to
it was here
30
last
than
month.
35.
I'm sorry?
It'll get us closer to 30 than 35.
Correct.
And the impact is actually a true 30 in that if it's 0% interest, right, we're not paying the juice every year over potentially a 20 to 30 year borrowing. So you're looking at, I mean, the project is essentially, if you just run like the current interest rates, I mean, about half the cost of what it would have been borrowing at potentially like 5% over that time.
So,
Right.
so the ratepayers are going to see an
Significant
impact,
amount
but
of money.
you're doing everything you can to minimize it.
Correct.
It's an expensive project, but it could have potentially been a lot worse
Okay.
with different funding.
And to be clear too, I mean, part of, it's not something we're just doing by choice. I mean, these are part of changing regulations, and we don't, it's not like the city cannot do this, right? We're trying to provide clean water, but also like these are regulations that we have to conform with.
Right. Right.
And then where do we stand on hiring an OPM?
So we have to talk to, we need to talk to SRF about what their expectations are for the OPM, because there's construction administration built into engineering costs. So just in terms of what the expectations from their side are for the OPM, it's just something we have to circle back on. Courtney and I have met to go through the OPM process. We obviously haven't put anything out on the street.
When do we think we're likely to be receiving OPM bids?
I wouldn't have a good day for you right now on that. We're not at the stage to put something out.
It's still a few months off. Okay.
Is-
And when are we expecting this project to start?
This project right now, we're expecting to be advertised in January of '25. To receive the SRF funding, there's a couple firm deadlines we need to meet. One of them is that we are able to get the loan authorization through council by the end of June. The second is that we are able to get 95% design plans to DEP by mid-October. And that is in the works. Again, we expect 30% this coming month, and it's moving along.
So we have some time to get the OPM on board.
The loan authorization did go down last night in
Okay.
the mayor's communication. I believe, so there's a public hearing scheduled. I believe it was actually pushed out a little bit for April 16th, but I would just need to confirm. It may have been March 19th. I'll check on that.
Okay.
Is there a date that the PFAS, where the system is required to be up and running and we need to be meeting the new?
We actually need to be meeting it now. The plant, the new reg started in, I want to say we were required to start sampling in April of '21, and we failed by June of '21. So we made it through that first summer, shut the plant down, and then we had the next summer was the summer with the drought, and we just could not meet demand with the larger plant on West Street. So late '22, we actually had to start the plant back up, failing PFAS. So we're supposed to be meeting it now. We received a notice of non-compliance in 2021 for DEP that basically said you need to get moving and get something in place to get this treated. So that's the step we're in now. My intent is to leave the plant down until the temporary treatment's online. Last summer, that worked fine. I mean, it rained from June until today, basically. So we've been kind of lucky. I mean, it means we don't sell any water, but it's been better for recovery of the reservoir system. If we end up with another summer like '22, I mean, between the mayor and I, we have a decision. It's either full outdoor restrictions to try to curtail use down to absolute minimum, or we restart that plant.
And the reason the PFAS is because the limits changed. Like the PFAS didn't all of a sudden become higher in the system.
No, it didn't. Well,
Regulation became more stringent. Is that
correct. We do, it's called UCMR sampling. We're actually regulated under Mass DEP. Every 5 years, I'll go back a little bit. Mass DEP can regulate us because they meet or exceed EPA standards. So we have actually the PFAS regulation right now is DEP and not EPA. But it kind of started with EPA. Every 5 years they come up with a contaminant list, and they have water departments do nationwide sampling with a contaminant that it's either emerging, they think it's going to be a problem, it's causing health problems, there's research about it. It could just be somebody found it somewhere. But they come up with a contaminant list that they're interested in, they may want to regulate in the future. About 10 years ago, PFAS 6, which is what we're having issues with right now, was on that contaminant list for sampling. When you go back that far, how low labs were able to test for this was in the parts per billion. So most of us didn't find anything. We certainly didn't, not a single one. Massachusetts in, I want to say late 2019, decided they were going to take a closer look at PFAS. And they looked at these 6 in particular, and they set a limit of 20 parts per trillion for these 6 compounds combined. So again, a few years before that, we're testing in the parts per billion, and now we're 1,000 times lower, and statewide, everybody started finding this. There's very few zeros in the state, and there's, last list that I saw for currently failing, which means they're still putting water to the system, was about 120 systems statewide. We're not included in that because we're not running right now. So the PFAS didn't come out of nowhere, but the regulation kind of did. It was regulated within a year of when they proposed it, and that's Mass DEP. And there's not really, it doesn't go away. It will be there forever. It's coming from upstream somewhere. We think we know where, and I'm not 100% sure that's public record yet. But it's going to keep coming with where it's coming from. Even if we remove it from the water, you know, it'll end up in this resin where it either gets regenerated through burning or it gets landfilled. It's going to still make it back into the environment eventually, and in the form of rain, it comes right back to us. So, and it's kind of related to, if anyone remembers the whole thing with the chlorofluorocarbons in the 1980s and that unbreakable chlorine-fluorine bond. Same idea, and they're actually still out there. There are companies still producing these, so if it's something that's used at your home, Scotchgard, believe it or not, nonstick spray, lipstick, anything you can think of that's stain-proofing, or a lot of reflective gear, anything that's non-stick that you would use in your home, almost everything has this. So as soon as it's in the home, it's either in the landfill or it's down the sink or toilet and into the sewer system, and it makes the rain cycle and still comes back. So that's, sorry, a very long answer on what you asked.
Okay. And then I guess, are we expecting the permanent solution to be finished?
Right now, we're looking at late 2027. Again, the temporary, once we get it online, we'll be able to produce 1 million gallons of water a day, which will take a lot of stress off the West Street plant and a lot of stress off the reservoir system. And that will run until we have our permanent plant in late 27.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Thank you for that. Attleboro, Pawtucket.
Attleboro, Pawtucket is better news. We have a couple updates since the last meeting. There is an update from Matt Pitta from CDM. Our big news there hasn't been much work out there. If you've driven by, there is some excavation that's been done. That's relocation of the gas line. Our contractor, whose water line, is mobilizing next week. They're taking delivery. There was the change order signed related to the purchase and installation of the yard piping. That will actually be, the piping will be delivered on March 14th. So if you drive around down there, you will see some work and some deliveries going on with the contractor there. And they're looking to begin site prep and the installation of the yard piping in the next few weeks. I do have better news on that. The expected date that we'd originally had for completion and an operational station was January of 2025. The latest schedule that we have from Waterline has them completing and us being able to test and operate the station by late August of this year.
Well,
So there is another option. It is a pricey one to buy water, but the station will be available in an emergency, a drought situation. If something happens to the West Street plant, we will have supplemental water by the end of the summer there.
8 years in the making.
8 years, and I finally have good news about this connection, so.
And you said you wouldn't borrow the, is that the the VFDs?
That is why I would not borrow those VFDs, because
you-
that station
you-
will be ready.
You might need to connect. Okay, understood. All right, Mason, we have a bill.
We do, we have an invoice for that project.
Waterline Industries, application number 3 for $70,649.19. Is that an order to pay?
It is.
And are you satisfied, Courtney?
I am.
Anybody have any questions on that bill or on the project? And the motion's in order to approve the bill.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, that it?
That's it.
That's plenty.
That's funny.
Okay, we'll see you next month.
Next month, I actually have a conference. It's our annual conference. I can send updates through Mason. If you would like an update from CDM or Tater and Howard, I can arrange to have someone come and talk.
Maybe it would be good if Matt could appear on Zoom.
Which Matt? They're both a Matt, I'm sorry.
Barry or Pitta?
Either or both.
Either or both, okay.
Enjoy your conference.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Is it someplace nice?
No, it's in Worcester.
I hear Worcester's beautiful this time of year.
It's actually, it's a fun town to be in, but.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then, I see Ann Jeanette, so I guess you're next. Willett Roof?
Good evening, everybody. I think I'd like to start, if it's okay with everybody, with just going over the final invoice for the roof contractor, if that's okay.
Whatever you want. You got the
Jeanette, do you
floor.
wanna deal with the change order first?
Sure, actually, that's a good idea. Yes, let me do that. Can you guys see my window, my screen?
You can.
Yes.
Okay, so in order to reconcile the roofing subcontractor's contract, there needed to be another change order issued. We were going to bill out for his unit prices. There were some credits coming back for that, and then there was also some material that was not needed to complete the downspouts, so we were asking for a credit for that as well. And then the last item was there was some insulation that was not provided in one of the areas, so we realized that credit for that $600 coming back to the project. So in total, it's a credit coming back of $7,243. So in this change order form, the original contract value was $746,000. We're issuing a change order for the credit of $7,243. The previous change order for the gutter guards was for $41,343.24, which brings their total adjusted contract price for including this new change order to $780,100.24. And how we got to the money, the value there, Mason, I'm not sure if you shared all this information with the group there, but the whole package includes it includes the documentation of the unit prices, the money that wasn't expended and therefore goes back to you, the client. This was just a markup that Bob and I had done when we went through it. And then this just shows the location of the downspouts where there was a credit back for the material that was not going to be used. And then this was just the email that we had sent to JASIC, who is the subcontractor, explaining what the breakdown was. This again is one of the details of the material that was not used. And it was actually the credit that he offered back for that material. And then this was just, this is part of his requisition, and this is just how we broke everything down so he could show, let me zoom in here, this actually shows what the breakdown of the credits back to the owner is. So we would ask at this time for an approval of the change order, the credit change order to JD&D Roofing by the Municipal Building Commission tonight.
You're satisfied, Mason?
Absolutely. Always good to get credits.
Yes. Yeah, it's always good to see the money flow the other direction.
Right.
Any questions on the change order number 2? Is there a motion?
So moved. Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so then, does that mean we can move on to the requisition for 36,000?
We have the requisition now, and so what we've had him do is in order to, he had billed out for all the work that he had done, and he only had a little bit of work left to bill out, and it was just the unit prices. So in order to be able to recognize the credits, we had him complete one requisition, which we released all of his retainages, we billed for this, change order, the credit here. So overall, the numbers that he's billing for this month, it's the total release of his retainages, which is the $41,559, the retainage for the gutter guards, which is the $2,066, and then the credit of the $72.43 is that change order we just issued. So his final payment for the amount certified would be $36,383.01, and that completes all of his work. And in addition to the requisition, the pay application that we've, oh darn, I don't know where to go. Let's see if I have. In addition to the invoice, we do have all of the closeout documents as well, which includes the warranties. There was a requirement for the abatement of the paint. We had to have that, the manifest for that as well. And so the whole package has been sent over to Mason. I'm not sure, Mason, if you have a copy for the group there.
Yeah, everyone has a copy in hand.
Okay, great. So within all of that, and then there's the certification from Rich, the architect, stating that everything is in order, everything is per the plans and specifications. So this would be the final invoice as it relates to the roof portion of the project for this particular subcontractor. Rich, is there anything that I've missed or misstated?
No, you haven't misstated anything. The warranties, as you said, are you have a GAF warranty, that's for the shingle roof. You have Elevate's warranty for the single-ply roof. The warranties are all in accordance with the plans and specs. You have a 2-year contractor's warranty that's in there. You have your as-built, consent to surety, and there's some other AIA closeout documents. I don't really have much more to add. And that concludes all of the paperwork required for the Willard Elementary School roof replacement.
And the contractor's gone, he's finished off the site.
Correct.
Since beginning of January.
Okay, and we don't have any leaks.
I have not heard of any leaks, Jack. If I had,
that's
we would
right.
have addressed that already.
I mean, the window walls and that other stuff probably is still leaking like a sieve, but we haven't gotten to that yet.
Correct.
Okay, so that's good. So we need to then approve, do we know that $36,000 requisition, is there an application number or something associated with that?
It's the pay, it's JD&D's pay app number 3.
Number 3, okay.
Number 3, correct.
Okay, good. So you're recommending that to us, Anjanette?
Yes.
And Rich?
Yes.
And Mason?
Absolutely.
Jackie, is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Okay, that finishes the roof. Where are we on the rest of the work, Rich or Anjanette?
I can give a brief update, Rich, you can jump in.
Sure.
So, everything has been issued for the window wall. I'm showing here, this is what the schedule is, and we've made all of these dates. The project went out to bid on February 21st. There was an on-site pre-bid meeting February 27th at 4. There was one subcontractor that showed up. Bob was present there. After that, there was a few questions that came in. Andy put together all of the questions and clarifications into an addendum that was issued on February 29th. We expect the general bids to come in this Friday at 11 a.m. and we'll be there in person to open them and review them. And then I believe it was discussed previously that we would meet with this group in 1 week to review the bids and at that time make a recommendation to award. Is that still the plan?
Yeah, we have actually scheduled a meeting for next week at the Zito Room.
Okay.
Where the main topic is the public safety building, but we'll do you first and them second.
Okay, great.
And that's the 13th, Anjanette, just to correct the note you have there. So that's Wednesday the 13th.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And then the plan is after we do that, we will get things rolling, get the submittals in, so that we can get the materials procured, and we anticipate starting construction on July 1st with a final completion date of August 16th. We don't really think it'll take that long, but we're factoring in weather, and I don't know, anything else that could possibly create a little bit of a delay. But Rich, what would you like to add? I can't hear you.
All right, sorry about that. So we'll be there on Friday for the bid opening, and as what we'll be doing is we'll be recording the results, and then we'll be reviewing those bids and putting a letter together recommending award of bid to the lowest responsive contractor after we do reference checks. So I think we probably should be able to we should be able to give you a letter recommending award of bid for that meeting on March 13th. I don't see any issues with that.
And will you be available by Zoom for that meeting?
Either myself or Andy will be there will be available, Jack.
Okay.
By Zoom.
So Mason, we'll put them on first at 5:30, and hopefully within 15 minutes or so, we can go to the public safety building. So, good, excellent. Anything else on Willett?
I don't think so. I don't think I have anything else, Rich.
Okay, then unless there are any questions for either of them, then I guess we go to last but far from least, Mark Zawatsky for the police roof.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the NDC. The project has been successfully completed. Rich Gorham has received and reviewed the final requisition in the amount of $35,250, which includes a credit change order previously approved by the NDC of $21,040.
Let me stop you right there, Mason. Is that bill supposed to be on our agenda then?
Yes, that was, sorry? Go ahead, Mark.
I just received it and it was transmitted yesterday.
Yeah.
So if it is not ready to be reviewed by the NBC, that's fine. The contractor was not all that speedy in submitting their warranties and documentation. We had numerous conversations with them, but they have completed all of that work and they have submitted the paperwork and the documentation. So it will be reviewed and accepted by the city in your timeline. I am not asking that something that was just received by Mason yesterday is going to be reviewed and approved or voted on by the NBC this evening. That would not be right. However, I just wanted to report, and Rich can support that there was an inspection of the roof by Johns Manville, the roofing manufacturer. It received appropriate marks. A warranty was issued, and all the closeout documentation for the project has been received by Rich, and I'd like to just have Rich speak on it. But my big picture is the project is now 100% complete, and we can go in complete closeout phase in the proper process.
So is this the final requisition, or is this not a final requisition?
No, it would be a final requisition, number 3. So it would be a complete closeout of the project, Mr. Chairman.
And everybody's satisfied, including the police department, that the roof is in good shape?
Absolutely, yeah. So
Chief
this,
Haney has not indicated any leaks whatsoever. I've heard gratitude and appreciation, although you're aware, and the MDC is aware, and your capital improvement plan is aware that this building, among many others within the city, need to be attended to from a deferred maintenance perspective on masonry repointing and exterior envelope repairs, but this roof project and its warranty and all of the scope of work designed by Socotec has been completed.
So Mason, are you comfortable with us voting on this tonight, or do we need to wait till next Wednesday?
so I'm comfortable with it. It's ultimately up to the commission. So this, as Mark said, this came later yesterday. So we're basically submitting it as sort of new business of, as an additional item that came before the committee. It's, if you'd like to table it for the 13th, that's
No,
fine, but
it's
a copy was given to each member.
Getting
It's
it
up
off
to
our
you.
plate seems like a good idea to me.
I'd like to hear from Rich before you vote on it, sir.
Sure.
Sure. So, Jack, I can confirm for you and the committee that I was actually present when Manville did their warranty inspection. They spent all of about 15 minutes up there because they just couldn't find anything. We had already taken care of all of it, prior to them arriving on site. So they were very happy. They accepted it the same day that we were up on the roof. They've submitted the warranties that we required, which is I think it was a 20 or 30 year warranty?
20 years.
It was a 20-year warranty, I'm sorry. It's a 20-year warranty with 99 mile per hour wind speed coverage. That's exactly what we asked for in the specifications. In addition to that, they took care of some of the drainage issues that we had up there, specifically a plumbing issue in the locker room downstairs in the basement, which we haven't seen a repeat of that leak since it's been done. The whole project actually went better than we could have foreseen, just because we had some weather that had cooperated with us back in December. So, in addition to the warranty, the 20-year warranty, you have 2-year contractor's warranty, you have the as-built drawings, and you have the consent to surety and some of the other AIA closeout documents. So there's nothing really that the contractor owes, and we consider the project closed and basically signed off on. So.
Okay, well, if our consultants are satisfied and our staff person is satisfied, then I am. So I think a motion is in order to approve requisition number 3 for Gibson Roof for $35,250.
Move to approve. Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was a great project. We got lucky with the weather, and we moved with velocity, and we had the great outcome, and everybody, and we were excited to be able to complete this project in an aggressive timeline on behalf of the city. And I want to recognize Rich and Socotec and the contractor. What I thought we assembled was a high-performing team, and Chief Hagney and the entire police department were cooperative. It was a great outcome, and we continued to meet and exceed all expectations. I was very pleased with the outcome. Thank you.
And then just to follow up on one thing you said, I know Mason's aware of it, and we have to make sure the mayor is cognizant of it, but if we're going to make this building last and the fire department building last until we can somehow or other come up with a large sum of money to replace them, we are going to need to probably spend some money on other aspects of the building, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, some of the individualized items are carried in the CIP from the different departments. So you can see a lot of that there in the CIP that was sent down a couple weeks ago. In the aggregate, though, when you talk about the public safety buildings, I mean, it's also kind of a factor in the conversation next week. So, some of what we're hearing about next week in the joint feasibility study, some of the results of that, obviously have an effect on, the long-term decisions for these buildings as well.
Right, because if we knew that we were going to start in a year on a public safety building, we probably would try to get by. But if we were going to start 8 years from now, we got to get from here to there. So, okay, well, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
And another good job.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care.
Bye.
Okay. So, unless there's something else, we're gonna be at the Zito Room next Wednesday at 5:30 for Will It bid opening and public safety. The week after that, we'll be in the Zito Room for the school building committee. And then you get a week off, and then on April 3rd, we're back here at it again for our regular meeting. Correct, Mason?
That's the schedule I have.
Okay. Any other matters we need to bring up, Mason?
Nothing at this time.
All right, then motion to adjourn at 6:16.
Move to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.